Like people down there, do hope that somebody has it. I can bring it up. Hold on.
I'm Dr. Greg Miller. I work at the Bible Clinic. I'm basically here on behalf of patients that I take care of and the kids of the community. I see patients, kids that are really struggling with the hybrid and the virtual learning. And I know you guys can work on it. I know this is kind of an easy solution, an easy question, problem, but the kids are really struggling. Not only in our community, we do articles where kids are failing, learning 3 times, and I just see it when I see them coming in. They don't have a good income. I really would ask, I would be happy to help assist in any way that we can look at things. I know the biggest question is probably easy to say. I think we should look at, there's school districts all over the country and locally, direction, personality, it's gone back and forth. But they've got a lot of days of each person. The kids need that. They need the social interaction. And I am a little confused. Is there something, maybe I'm missing something, there's something different that's going on in your college? So there's something different. I'd love to get involved and help to see if there's any way we can do it. I do believe we can teach it. And I just want to offer any assistance I can do. And a couple of ways to look at it, sometimes we have to push on. Absolutely, technical and working like that. And a lot of people, but we don't have to do it. And, and I'm outside, let's think all the nurses in the country that are not going to work for the vaccine. We have a lot of it. If we had, not even healthcare, we us in this healthcare. And I really feel bad for that because I think not much was done for them. But if all of them said not going to work, 97% of this country would come to work. We'd have no food, we had chaos. So sometimes we got to press forward. I would love to help anything I can. I feel that our kids are suffering. I'm worried about the long-term damage that we're doing to our kids. So this is after me, thanks for listening. I just want to give the kids a thing.
Thank you very much. I think in the conversation today, we're going to hear happening in the community. In the conversation today, and with the communication, I'm certain that you will be able to hear it.
I don't like this issue.
All right, so we are going to move into our acknowledgement and recognition portion of the meeting. And I'll turn to Wildcat Cloud.
Okay, so tonight we've got a few Wildcat Cloud awards to hand out to a few of the teachers at Greenwood and also some of the PTO reps. We've got a little bit of background in those things. There's at least 4 of them that are here. Maybe you should start by calling on them and have them come up just so that they can read this acknowledgement. You guys want to come up to the front? Emily, Marcel, and then also the teachers that are here too. So we have PTO reps from Greenwood, Emily Pearson and Vanessa Withers, and also teachers Ashley Gorman, grade 3, and Caitlin Rubel from kindergarten, and Anna Clark is also recognition grade 2 teacher not here tonight. And the statement that we'd like to read in regard to the reason this award is being presented. Many students of color never see themselves represented in the materials in the classroom. They never see a good guy with dark skin read about a hero from their own race, or find a role model of color that inspires them to pursue a career or passion. Only white students never see any of these things either. In almost every book they are shown, every story they are told, the protagonist looks exactly like them. This is also true when you think of children with disabilities, different religion, or that live in a different family dynamic. When children cannot find themselves reflected in the books they read, or when the images they see are distorted, negative, or laughable, they learn a powerful lesson about how they are valued in society in which they are. In this country, where racism is still one of the major unresolved social problems, books make one of the few places where children are socially isolated and insulated from the larger world and meet people unlike themselves. They see only reflections of themselves. They will grow up with an exaggerated sense of their own importance and value in the world, which is dangerous ethnocentric. Diverse literature can help us understand each other by better helping to change our attitudes towards forgiveness. And there are enough books available that can act as both mirrors and windows for all of our children. They will see that we can celebrate both our differences and similarities because together they are what makes us all human. The Greenwood Elementary School facility teams up with Greenwood Teachers Action Forum and a park including Greenwood on a project to raise over $4,000 for the purchase of 350 children's books that increase representation, inclusivity, and diversity within classroom, library, and social media. All students from all backgrounds deserve to be represented in the books they read. Thank you to all of our Greenwood families and friends for your generous donation. So I've got awards to present to each of you, Caitlin. And then the Greenwood School family.
And the fact that all of you put your time and creativity and energy toward making this happen. Thank you. Thank you very much. I typically tell people that you are more than welcome to stay, but it is also not good if you're together. The next item on our agenda is
Only if you want to make a comment or video.
2 years ago, we decided to launch. Okay. 2 years ago, when we decided we were going to go to referendum, we developed some things that we do for referendum and so forth. But our community came through inflammatory for us. And so this video, we started making it in the very beginning, and it shows everything from, not everything, but a lot of stuff that we did. And I think we sometimes that worked out the support of the community. So this video for this as a thank you for everything that's happened, and first show a snapshot what was accomplished through the support of the community.
So before the video, just add, you have one more one else here. No, we're announcing it in the spirit of which is intended. I'll say another Wildcat Award goes out to our community for their support in the referendum. So this video is really a shout out to say thank you to our community for their support. We're excited to put this video together to give our appreciation to our community and to hold ourselves accountable and explain to them the success that we've had in completing our $48 million worth of referendum projects. There were hundreds of mini projects associated with $48 million worth of work, some of which are not as noticeable or attractive perhaps when you're working on HVAC infrastructure or putting the roofs on. People don't see that, but those are important improvements that were made. We think that we listen to the community values and to what their expectations were. We took their marching orders and followed through with those related construction projects. So we also pulled out a couple of old horrible color-wide classrooms at West Side Elementary and replaced that with brick and mortar improvements. Those are long overdue. Flexible learning spaces. We added multi-purpose spaces at all of our elementary schools. We added new flexible learning spaces also at the middle school and high school. As educational instructional changes have occurred over time, we needed to provide better spaces that accommodate today's learners and new instructional practices for small groups, large groups, and independent work by improving the facilities themselves to create new and different spaces and of learning to take place. It's just a long list of many projects that we supported. In addition to the new middle school science labs that we upgraded, the high school computer tech lab and space was also enhanced and improved. Our high school flexible wide hallways were turned into new learning spaces. Middle school has more flexibility in their library media center, all of which was focused on student-centered, adaptable space for individual and collaborative learning. Improvements were made from our rooftops to our sidewalks and everything that we parking lots. New 30-year shelf life roof replacement, plumbing, electrical, flooring, lighting, HVAC, restrooms, just a laundry list of many improvements, all for maintaining and investing in existing facilities. But we also added many new elementary classrooms, new artificial turf around by new lights, and parking lot outside, and softball, baseball fields. All again provide resources and space for our staff to excel, and most importantly, to create modern, up-to-date facilities to enhance and improve our school experience. We like to be able to say the phrase, we are on time and on budget, and we finished all of these $48 million worth of improvements on time and on budget. They all credit is due to our community for their commitment and their investment. They trust and they know that we do have a good school system. In return, they expect a lot of us. So it's a mutual two-way street, that trust and that relationship. And so we're just feel really, really blessed, very blessed that our community has made this investment, and we will continue to move our district forward through their investments and advancing the way in which we teach and the way in which we learn. Not a lot was said there related to the academy. So put update on that. There's a separate video. We have a time capsule. It's a traditional activity. We're going to put some memorabilia from the year 2020 into a time capsule, and then we're going to put that in an interior wall type of envelope. And we're going to wait to do that. We can have an open house and have people see that nice new building and be a part of the time capsule activity. So we're gonna put that out until September, when we're all enjoying post-COVID era and being able to get together and celebrate that building at that time.
And I hope that our community takes time to watch that. All right, we have a very full agenda today. We are going to make sure to diligently go through each issue, but also want to be mindful of the time to do our production. The first thing now, we have the recent parent staff survey results that Cindy is going to have.
So there's really 3 links on the agenda. I'm just showing you the first link where my assistant Aaron took. We designed the survey, really had 2 things in mind. One was to ask staff and parents, what do you think about district decisions at this point related to COVID? Give us some feedback. How are we doing? And then additionally, we wanted to get some guidance from them and get some opinions from them. And so those were really the 2 main reasons we did the survey, to ask kind of how are we doing so far, and to get some of their wisdom on our decisions moving forward. So on this particular set of slides, Aaron pulled together, the questions were designed similarly. And so, we asked some of the demographics, get some information, really good turnout with our staff responses, 252, over 1,200 responses from parents, well represented from throughout the district. We wanted to ask a question, a couple of the latter questions in the survey were related to extracurricular decisions that the board has made. And so we asked this question up front, just to be able to disaggregate and find out, how do you think that the decisions have gone so far related to athletics, and to get some opinions about that, and I'll get to that a little later.
Just a clarification. One parent could have 3 kids that elementary, middle school, and high school. It would have been responding pretty much, right? They have to respond to 1 kid.
Correct.
So when you say, was it, elementary, middle school, high school, what parents would expect?
Correct. And the other piece here is it wasn't just in a school activity, it could have been a community-based club or sport. And again, someone maybe argue we should have just stuck to school-related sport decisions or not. So
the 1,200 responses would be representing a couple thousand, 2,500, 3,000.
correct. Yes.
And could also have 2 people respond to the survey for 1 student.
So we have up categories. Educational programming was this category, and I'm not gonna go through all the narrative, but the essence of the question again was similar for both staff and for parents. So I think all students, grades PK through 12, should be at home distance learning. COVID danger is too high. I think that we should just shut the place down. All kids should be at home. The commonality here, again, I should point out, 1 means that you strongly disagree with the statement, and a 5 means you strongly agree. And so here I would say we have some similar opinions between parents and staff that no, that's not the right place. We need to have our kids here at school. The rest of these questions will get into the depth of that a little bit deeper. I'm pleased that PK through 6 has been in school 5 days per week. Some similarities. I support the grade 7-12, the hybrid blended learning environment should continue. Mixed reviews See where people are lining up. To point of reference, that's 20%. This is 14%, 28%. Over here, staff opinion, 23%, 27%, 30%, and so on. Again, that was stay put in what we're doing right now, basically, with this. Now we got to this question to say all students should now be back in school, learning 5 days a week. And so again, I'm sorry, next, reviews. I want to go backwards for a moment.
No.
Back in school 5 days a week. What is that? Can't read it myself. 38, 15, 17, 13. Personally, myself, the two of the these last two survey questions are, in my opinion, me personally, paramount of all the questions that we ask. Not to devalue how are the kids doing academically, and certainly not to devalue how are they doing social emotionally, but from a decision standpoint, moving forward, these last two questions, I think we should stay in our current hybrid 7 through 12, a blended model where they're blended school a couple days and then home the rest of the week, or do you think we ought to bring them all back 5 days a week and see that we've got mixed reviews here? Froze, Aaron. Here we were asking, trust and transparency. How are you feeling about the decisions that have been made? We were glad this. We were pleased with these results. I can keep this up.
There you go. Got it.
Has made appropriate decisions to ensure the best interest of students and staff with regard to academics and social and emotional. Again, good, pretty good results. I was kept informed about the kind of not only a trust but a communication piece. Here's the social emotional support question. Academic needs. Access to additional support when needed. District has made appropriate decisions with sports, other co-curricular activities. They allowed youth sports to use our facilities. For a while we didn't. Spectator debates, how many people can come and watch those events. Now we ask, how are you doing at home with the internet connectivity, Wi-Fi? Tools and resources to do my job as a staff member and from a parent perspective to be able to support my child's learning. So now we just kind of bundled together again. I gave you my opinion that those two questions about all students should now be back learning 5 days a week versus no, just stay put. This is a side by side that shows you staff and parent perspectives on those two questions. And then Aaron broke it down here to illustrate students should now be back in school. What we did was wanted to see, okay, here's grades 9 through 12. You can see staff and parents. Now, instead of just looking at the data from all of the respondents blended together, we disaggregated and notify what grade level. This is high school. See a little more green over here than we do here. Again, 5 is strongly group. 4. Middle school, grade 6, 8. And then K5. We have a e-school slide here. E-school parents. And that's it. So, as we now kind of progress through with later on our agenda, we'll have some more dialogue related to where we go from here. What kind of recommendations, where are we at with whether or not we're ready to bring kids back to school more than we currently are, specifically grade 7, 12, and so on. But this is a separate item we wanted to kind of showcase the survey results.
Jamie, what is the actual date that these were compiled as? When was the survey returned?
Last Monday,
What was the last day? 11? No.
it was the 18th.
18.
18th?
Yes, I think we sent it out on a Thursday and we told people, and we know from past practice that everybody's good at responding right away. And so we just opened it up for 4 days. It was open from like a Thursday through a Sunday and we got all those results.
Any clarification about because we talked about this, that this is background information, and when we get to the conversation, we typically moving from the national currency transaction. But before we get to that, maybe we'll start with non-financial items, and then the first part is
Probably would have been smoother if I would have created this agenda to have that survey flow right into the, if I had done the strategic plan, executive summary first, but bear with me, please. Really important part of our history of this, that we had a 5-year strategic plan, that the community met in this room right here. We had 80+ citizens, board members, staff, and students helped to develop a vision for a strategic plan that eventually became known as Renewing Our Promise. It was given that title of Renewing Our Promise because it came on the heels of this new 5-year strategic plan to help guide our progress and help to form a vision for the time period between 2015 and 20. Came on the heels of a prior 5-year strategic plan that really helped to shape some of the progress of the district during that 10-year period, 2010 to 15. And so we thought this was a renewal of some of those promises and a continuation of moving forward. Hence the name. I'm taking a stab at what I call an executive summary here. And so my disclaimer is, please appreciate that by no means could I possibly encapsulate and share with you all of the many wonderful things that resulted from that strategic plan. But it was a real plan. It had real legs and real life to it. It wasn't something that was developed and then sat on a shelf and collected dust. There were specific action steps that helped move the district forward related to this strategic plan. And so I just want to give you a little executive summary of some of those progress indicators. We broke the, once all of our visioning was done and we gathered input from our community, we then broke down that input into 8 areas listed here. Tonight I'm going to go through each of those goal areas, and the reason now in my formatting that I chose to put A, B, C, D, the reason I chose to put this in a gold color is if I were to pick, if I was put into a box and forced to make that opinion related to, of all of the work within this school area for highly qualified staff, what do you think had the greatest impact over that last 5-year period? And I put my chips in on the professional learning community. Our principals have done a great job, along with Jennifer Peterson, our director of academics, and providing leadership to help bring our staff together to have those professional conversations in ways that I think is a bit new and different from days gone by. It's a way where the staff are sharing their ideas, they're tearing apart student data, and they're making they're sharing their instructional ideas with each other in some very new and different ways. So this one, highly qualified staff, covers a lot of bases. So that's just one base along the path. There's other things. Renewed focused on our training, our professional development, research related to personalized instruction, classroom design, the use of technology, how we recruit and how we select in our hiring practice, gathering competitive wage and benefit data to make sure that we continue to hire and retain high quality staff in this district, all falls under that goal area. With all 8 of these broad goal areas, they're built in a way that they really support each other, and you'll notice a little overlap as I go through these next 7 slides. Innovative learning. Advancing our equitable opportunities for students in our co-curricular activities such as Lego League, Robotics Club, Gifted and Talented Programming, and a host of other non-athletic co-curricular opportunities has really grown in the last 5 years. All kinds of things, again, fall into this category. Our collaboration with the Forward Foundation and Marine Foundation, City of River Falls, some leadership opportunities we've had there, collaborating with university and CBTC and on the list goes here. Lots of innovative learning opportunities. Summer school at the bottom here, Jennifer was reminding me today, we've really changed and revamped the vision we have for summer school. I think it's more engaging. Kids look forward to that summer school program. It's a remedial kind of program. Kids are very engaging. Lots of progress with innovative learning. Lifelong learning and career readiness. Again, UW-RF course options, increasing our participation rates of high school students in dual credit courses, partnerships with CPTC, Project Search for our special needs students, obtain some vocational experiences, community business, industry partnerships, community education falls into this category with lifelong learning. Funding, great progress was made. Specific piece in the funding category of our strategic plan was a very successful referendum. We just saw the video on that, but I tell you, it did a couple of really big, it helped us to cross some hurdles when it comes to facilities that I will highlight when we get to goal number 8. Communications and collaboration. Again, Monique and her one-member staff have helped to advance this. It takes our staff to help with this, but we've really launched out and sent out many more things using social media to kind of tell our story to our community. Student-centered. You as the board have made these investments to ramp up our staff in some of these critical areas where we needed more support for our students. The work that we're doing with equity, inclusivity, diversity committee, I think Nathan's going to give us a little update here later. Character education is huge. You know that we've been recognized with multiple state and national awards for the work that's embedded into our everyday operations as a school district around character education. Facilities, again, there's that $48 million referendum, but it really did some major hurdles were finally crossed. not only the investment of all those things mentioned in the video, but, you know, we had a respectful exit in the 1920s and the 1940s section of that academy building, rich with pride and tradition in the way in which the school board managed that respectful exit was done extremely well. It created a long-range solution for Montessori. We had wrestled with that for years. Developed you know, where are we at with our long-range facility plans, so that we don't find ourselves kicking the can down the road and not knowing for sure what some annual facility improvements that we can stay on top of. So we don't have to come back and continually knock on the door of taxpayers to support a referendum. This board has established a Fund 46, a sinking fund. Annually, you put some dollars into that fund that can only be used later on for facility capital improvements. Security advancements, big time. And the latest and greatest is our school forest access. I know some of the board members were able to attend a celebration this Friday. The Kinney River Land Trust, a wonderful partnership we have with them. They're purchasing some land. It's going to give us new access to a school forest problem we have had for ages. There's going to be some great legacy kind of opportunities for that moving forward. These things are all called for in the strategic plan. They were called for in black and white, and they haven't. So we just wanted to kind of share with the board some of those quick highlights. As we move forward, we will continue to lean on these priorities in the district to help forge the direction and the vision for where we're headed into the coming years. And that last slide reminds us as to what it's all about. Any questions?
It was very. I've got just a comment, maybe a summary comment, but as you put all that stuff up there, connecting the dots to our successful referendum and those kinds of things. I remember back when we started my first strategic planning process, about 7 years ago, Tom Luttrell was superintendent there, a lot of people in this room here into there, was part of it. We tried to, that led to the first referendum attempt we did back in 2008, somewhere in there. Some of the toughest years economically in my lifetime. We almost got that referendum passed, but now we have homework on strategic plan. We came in, we continued to update the next to this. In this process, I think finances, the community place, us to really talk about this where we're going. It seems to be so common, it makes sense, but not every school district does that, not every organization does that. It's really helped us stay focused on what our priorities are, where our budget should go, how to develop plans for referenda and our facilities. And it's nice to sort of be in summary here. And so I really appreciate your leadership on it. Together, it's been part good care of the district. This is a horrible question to ask at this point. 2020 COVID preoccupied, you think everything's this one ended with 2012. Is there
June at sunset, basically June of 2020. Now, when you get in front of the board today, we need to have kind of a little sunset activity here. So I wanted to do that by way of an executive summary. Putting together 21, 26. One of the things that we've got to a point in time, we're proud of the process and the design with 8 goals. To be honest, we had 39 action steps built into that. And we are also, I will mention to your point, that we're also recognizing that sometimes less is more. And keeping the focus a bit more narrow and not having all of the action steps and not having 8 big goals. You can see where there's overlap in some of those. This was what to have the 80 goals and those action steps was the result of taking all of the input that went into the process. We are so much more now, are so focused on the three priorities that that's on the slide. I think that's kind of driving our decisions and our plans, moving forward, facilities, budget, offices. So we will, yes, continue to make specific plans so that they can feel and look, or that we're not behaving as if we're yeah. And really those three main priorities that we are focused on. Our vision for district moving forward. It's pretty ambitious.
I think it's also important to realize that those three priorities have also been a really important driving force during the time that we have allowed them to help.
Having a strategic plan, we talked about this when we were first developing this a dozen years ago or so. And I've watched it play out over the last 12 years. That when we've got a tight budget and we've got a cut somewhere, you use your strategic plan to help drive what's priority. On the same token, when you get more, money was unexpected, but more money than was in the plan for, what do you do with that? The plan becomes a blueprint for what we do. Yeah, I think that's been so helpful to me as a board member to think about it. So when you start making budget cuts, we go start from scratch, we go to our plan, we're on our priorities, again, that's a reflection of our values, you know, think it through and get the plan.
Thanks for that update. And we'll be coming back to it. And I want to make sure that people really recognize that we don't have the top one in goal. Even though the top one was in goal, it doesn't mean like the ministry.
We just want to make sure we're talking slow and loud so people at home can hear us well.
Okay. All right, so now we are going to move on. We have no others, correct?
Correct.
So I will call our chair, Director Nelson.
Hi, good evening. We are here today to talk about one of those projects that we were able to do here in the last 3 months in our schools and to improve air quality, and that's the ionization. The technology was all finished with installation today, so we're about a week ahead of schedule. We have begun I think as we told you, we're going to be testing every single case in the district to make sure that we hit the proper level of ionization that we felt was necessary in order to be most beneficial in removing particles from the air. So we had began that process last week, and we're expecting that that will be wrapped up here in the next week or so. So that's another project done on time, on budget, and just wanted to give that update. It's a pretty important project. Any questions or anything?
I just could add maybe more for people listening at home that this installation of ionization, we studied that technology, and the board has made the decision to install just south of a $250,000 decision to install ionization units in all of our schools. This particular type of technology, simply stated, provides cleaner air for all of us to breathe. In part, it is a COVID mitigation effort, but also outside of COVID, provides more clean air for any time of season and any time of year, even COVID or not. This is an investment in the long term of multi-years. That's not to mention that this is a technology that improves the air quality with the decision. I don't know for sure if we would have looked at the technology if not for COVID, but we certainly looked very closely at it, and we're pleased to know that the installs are done.
Last month. Yes,
I was just gonna ask, I know those weekly emails go out, but it occurred to me as you were mentioning this. Would we work including update, and it's possible, I mean, I read those each week, but I can't say everything, every single thing, but all that, would it be worth mentioning to the parents and including the staff who are aware of that?
We've got a document written up there, just be passing off to Jamie tomorrow, actually, so now we feel like we can share that. So we've got that written and we'll be sharing it with you tomorrow.
Yeah, that's it. It's gonna, it's just, something that people are interested in. So, I had fears, I don't have fear that I don't think it's gonna be something like that, but, I guess if I wasn't involved there, then there would be something like that, or at least have to.
I think it's important for everybody to realize too, this is a select cases of this, this covers all of the learning environment, all of our, every class.
COVID was sort of a thing that connected to the best thing about this business here. For this will improve the health and control for as long as that technology will stay up. There's not a significant improvement on your quality of field generally. Oh, okay. That's I think that's the best.
Other questions or comments? Thank you, Deb, you also for this communication, that are now. And now we move on to
Oh, so we are back in the hybrid, which has been pretty interesting. I know personally, the majority of my classes are doing optional synchronous, so on the days where I'm at, I can do it if I want to, but if not, I do classes synchronously. But I just really like, I also do the field to just staying on stage with the teacher out. I know a lot of other things like it, they independently as well. It's been good to be back and kind of get to see people once again. It's a little weird with the snow day and the Tuesday Friday thing being the late person, but anytime we go there, it's better than me. And the transition to the first class has been well. I think everyone adjusted to classes. It's been a little weird starting in class, not in person. I would like these kids. Like I didn't make my teachers first before I had to do it. I know that caused some anxiety for kids, not knowing the teachers before they made the team, but I think now that everyone is running the first thing that was done, helping a little bit, we're all just hoping that these students are not our table.
When you do the synchronous class, I heard that talked about it, just be curious to know, are you just sitting there observing it, like the people at home are, or is there something that you need to raise a question or ask a question, or are you just observing?
So I love a class pretty personally, but most of them are the same. It depends on how many kids are online. Like my first class, I'm usually the only one there online, but answer in the chat box. A lot of kids are very observant of those, but you can just email it to them, make sure they see your question. A lot of the times you can kind of get yourself in remotely ask. But today in my first class, I did a worksheet with the class. They screen sharing so I can see what the class is seeing. I don't have to see it like from my teacher's from my team directly on my screen. So that's nice. You can hear discussions, they participate in discussions. And even on my government class, we had our own discussion on the Zoom while they were discussing a class. So that was a fun.
We were able to do it quite at level and be kids who are in clusters in the home. A good type of question and to our kids.
Yeah.
All right. Over the past week, we have been receiving a variety of presentations regarding social and emotional support. And today we are going to hear from Greenwood and Dr. Frank Elementary School. So, Emily and Amanda, come on up, everybody.
Hi, everybody. We are Greenwood Elementary, and we're going to be presenting some social emotional learning and well-being that happened at Greenwood now and that has happened prior to COVID. So I'd like to introduce Andrea Yancey, our school psychologist, and Emily Rose, our school counselor. And they spearheaded a lot of the work that we put in this year, in particular, the 30-day social emotional learning plan that Dr. Branch and the other elementary schools collaborated on. But I'll turn it over to these two and they can lead us through the presentation.
So this is just a brief overview of some of the topics and things we'll be discussing tonight. And we'll take you through time going through it. So the first thing we want to discuss is just what we've always done as a social emotional support for students, just to draw awareness. We brought new things to the table this year, but that does not exclude the things that we've always done. At Greenwood, the social emotional learning for our students has been a part of our value statements since we created them. And so it's a mission of all of our staff. It's not just Andrea and myself and me that are spearheading this. This falls into our value statement of staff. And then what we've always done includes our classroom lessons, my classroom lessons, Andrea's small groups, individual counseling, responsive services as a counselor, being able to respond to things as they come up, school-wide supports, and then also training resources that we've offered to families related to social emotional experiences. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about data, because before you get into school site, school reaction can be DNA sample to make sure that data is in your DNA. I use that all the time. So we're going to talk about social emotional behavioral data as well as academic data. And the reason is the two are intertwined, right? Oftentimes you don't have one without the other. So we compared data from last September to December and this September to December to see, first of all, what trends are we seeing and what we're all doing and all agreeing exactly is working, because it's working great. If it's not, we maybe need to change things up a little bit. So we have seen a 6% increase from last year to this year in documented student behavior. The blessing is 22% decrease in the number of students engaging in behavior. So what that tells us is the universal supports and the peer supports, the individual student meetings, the additional classroom lessons that Emily's going to speak about later are working. And the majority of students that engage in behavior that require documentation either receive services for special education or on a behavior plan, or kids make mistakes. So,
Clarify graduate behavior. I mean, that has the components to that. So for your document, what kind of things can be done?
Verbal, physical aggression, student conflict, things like that. These are quickly remediated with a special staff member. Yeah. Usually we have, or at our school, our behavior plan, we have students actually through what we call behavior plan of review, but it's just a reflection that they work through with the staff member that either was involved with the conflict. So that's how we kind of document it. They work through it. They talk about what they could be different next time and how they felt, how other people felt, and then we take that, we send it home, and we also document it in our system.
We wanted to take a second to share some academic data with you tonight as well, because of what Andrea had mentioned, that if kids are feeling good about being in school socially and emotionally, they should be able to perform, and vice versa. They go hand in hand. So what you see on the screen is data that comes from a benchmark screener that we use in the beginning, middle, and end of the year, and this is from our Ames web testing. And you can see some really, really good numbers there, surprising, as a matter of fact. If you look at the cohort groups, and we're talking about first and second second grade exclusively, because all of those kids are tested within Ames Web as opposed to other grades where we're testing from a smaller group of students. So you can see here that the same kids in first grade, they performed better in second grade this year, despite the fact that they were off of school from March through the end of the school year last year. And then when you're comparing grades, we're getting very, very similar scores. So we're not talking about the same kids there, but we're studying how did first graders do this year in the fall, how did first graders do last year in the fall. So we're really pleased with what we have in our Ames Web data. What you won't see from the data is we use multiple measures to look at how our kids are performing. So this is just one of several things that we use. We use another screener that's called the benchmark assessment system, which is a little bit more of a subjective and qualitative approach, where these are pretty short, quick probes that are looking at reading fluency, nonsense word fluency, oral reading fluency. Our benchmark assessment screener, where a teacher will sit down for 15 or 20 minutes, listen to a child read, and assess a number of different components. And our numbers don't look quite as good holistically there, but they do look pretty good. We're happy with them. The biggest area of worry for us is in our first grade students. And that's not a surprise because our kindergarten learners missed out on the third trimester of in-person learning last year, which is a crucial time for them to develop into new readers. So we're a little behind in the first grade relative to years past. The other grades pretty much spot on, slight drops, but nothing that's too significant.
The reason we want to improve academic, even though we're focusing on social emotional, is that we know that there's a clear model that if they don't have that foundation of being safe, happy, belonging at school, that academic progress that isn't always there. So seeing an increase in academic scores or at least similar shows us that our group support is working. At the beginning of the year, late summer, early fall, Greenwood sent out a parent survey. And the reason for doing that is so we can identify what were some of the needs that were identified transitioning into school. And so from that survey, we identified 3 needs: one being family change, one being family anxiety related to COVID, and fear. So 11% of families identified a significant family change, anything from a loss of a loved one, forced move, lost a job. 11% reported that they were anxious about returning back to school, and 40% had limited care connections. And so we know that through virtual learning, the opportunities for young students to interact with their peers is limited, and that's why the 30-day social emotional learning plan was so important. So that priority area, those 3 things really kind of made us evaluate where we're at, and we were learning about the whole child mindset, that if you don't support the families, you don't support the staff, that doesn't trickle down to the students. So while our main concern is the students, we wanted to make sure too that our supports are extended to the family and the staff members at Greenwood. And then that leads to our added supports. So really we added a lot. Andrea is growing her team at Greenwood, and that really helps with our classroom model, being able to get in there and have our faces be shown. We wanted our students to be able to see us, be able to know who we are, and be that support when maybe they haven't seen it in the past. We talked about the SEL 3-day lesson plan, but also constant connection classes have increased. I've added 8 more lessons for grade level for next grade year. And it's allowed me to be in the classroom and be able to double up on some of my lessons and be able to extend that team. And Andrea has also added lessons of her own. I've pushed into select classes to and so far in my it's increased by 1 now, but I have 2 lessons so far. So it's 73 lessons, which is great. And the other thing I wanted to highlight was these are individual efforts. We've increased our student check-ins. Both Andrea and I are meeting with students that have come up through the parent survey, also through parent requests. Teacher requests are what we've noticed just in the classroom. Being able to be visible in the classroom enabled us to know the students that might need to check in also, which also we help the staff and the whole school, which has led us to our future goals. So this hasn't been a one and done, right? These are things that we've identified that we'll probably continue to pop up on the radar.
focus on academic data, but they also focus on the social emotional behavioral support for our students. So we'll discuss both of those topics. Emily and my personal SPOs focus on social emotional learning. Staff support, we've done room service, we've been more visible, knowing that extra expectations have been thrown off the office. We want to make sure that fun so they can be fun. And then social community support or school community support. Kids are with us for only a small portion of the day, right? And oftentimes what they experience at home comes to them in school. So we want to make sure that we're supporting our families as well as supporting our students. So we're really helping the whole child. That's all we have.
So the data that was really interesting to me was the 6% increase in the behaviors, but the 22% increase in the number of students. What do you attribute that to? Are there certain students, is it because there's students in school? Are certain students really struggling? Or are they just more students happy to actually be in school? Or what do you attribute that? That's pretty significant change.
Yeah, looking at the students that were engaging in behavior, I see those kids maybe have a harder time transitioning into new environments and difficult. So having the COVID shutdown for their last potentially 3 months of school and then transitioning back into school with wearing masks, you're in a color cohort or a group cohort. So out on the playground, you might have been able to interact with other kids. Now they're stuck in a smaller group where maybe more conflict rise. We also saw the increase in the amount of students or having more discipline. I think it does contribute to the focus. We started this year with we didn't incorporate into academic testing. We gave teachers and students the time to really focus on that connectedness, that routine and structure and rules. And I think we saw a lot of it, like that they were able to kind of get into the routine and now, and we saw a really big decrease at the beginning of the school year.
I would just add one thing, and whether we're talking about the academic data or the behavioral data, percentages are impacted by the sample size, and we're not talking about a huge number of events. And keep in mind from the academic side, we're about 70 students less than what we had last year at Greenwood. The Ames data includes first students. The BAS data that I was talking about does not. So I can tell you that cohort groups might have had 10% more students who are below grade level to begin the year, but that grade level might have 15 less kids. So maybe we're talking about 2 students who drop below. We have a certain cohort where we made a 30% increase. So we didn't go backwards, we moved forward, which is attributed to about 5 students different. So then we have to think about which families, which kinds of kids, which groups, which families are able to support their children in a way that virtual school is an option for them and where they came from, where they were historically former, whether it's behavioral or academic.
So I was very intrigued by the academic slide, where you're looking at first grade to second grade and sometimes the same students. It's really surprising, quite frankly. I'm wondering how statistically significant that is at this point, especially if you're looking at different numbers of students who are with small size, you could make a really big difference.
Yeah, so like I said, the slide that we shared was Ames data, so that did include our higher Greenwood families, those that are virtual also. But generally, we're talking about 60 to 70 students per grade level in that first and second group. You're right. That was a surprise to us too. No doubt about it. We were happy with that. We're in the midst of another data dig actually once we collect all of our data for the winter term. That'll happen on February 5th, and that's more important. The end data in the spring is really what matters the most. Typically, we start the year first spring, our numbers are not as good as we want them to be. By the end of the year, we make huge progress and we catch it. So we wanted to share that with you to make you aware that we're looking at all angles and feel that the social emotional well-being of your kids is partly related to their academic performance and vice versa.
Absolutely. I imagine year is still going to be out in terms of the actual impact.
For sure. I think a message we wanted to convey to you is our kids are doing pretty well. Our kids are doing pretty well in those areas. We're happy with that. That's not going to cause us to back off of the efforts that we're making. As Andrew and Emily said, we plan on continuing many of these things that we've put in place that are new this year, but we're building on a great foundation. Elementary school, that's what it's all about, the whole child and making sure that they're well in all capacities.
I just have a quick follow-up on that. You may have answered it by saying you were surprised by that. I'm just curious, how many years has that been done? Does this year look different?
Well, I didn't go back and look at fall comparisons previous to this, but we've been doing these for, man, it has to be 7 to 10 years in our district. And I would say that it's pretty consistent from what we find from year to year. Cohort groups continue to grow. Our numbers of kids performing below grade level increase each and every year that they're at Greenwood. So our intervention model is working. The way we're supporting our kids are working. By the time we have fifth graders, this data was reading, but aims is also in math. Almost all of our kids are at grade level on that measure.
One last comment. You mentioned in the now 18 minutes to lesson, because I want to recognize that we understand how much more time there is for preparation for both of you. You're doing more things in the classroom, there's more things presentation. Not only what you do in the able to present to us, but also looking at it. Thank you.
Can I make one more comment? And I'm sorry to hold you any longer. And you're exactly right. And I appreciate you saying that. These two are like the dream team. Let me tell you, they're fantastic. We're so fortunate to have them at Greenwood. But the classroom teachers, all of the staff at Greenwood, and all of the buildings, I know Rocky Branch would say the same thing, deserve a huge shout out because they're doing the same kinds of things that these ladies are doing in their classroom each and every day. You might not put it on the slide, but those immeasurable impacts and efforts that our teachers and staff, we're talking cooks and custodians who are spending time meeting with kids who need a little extra boost too. We've got some real heroes in our building.
Thank you very much. And now we get to hear from our friends.
Well, thank you for making us whole last. It's hard to follow such a very short presentation, but anyway, our approach to this is to try to highlight some of the many things that we didn't bring up. One of the highlights here. This is our S3, which stands for Support Services. So we just wanted to let you know that we convert every day on how things are going for students, how things are going for teachers. We are actually in the same suite area now. One of the changes that we made in order to first-hand communication day-to-day. So I'd like to introduce Sonia Tamrock, our school psychologist, and Amanda Cole, our counselor. You're representatives of the many things that happen in our school. And so I rely heavily on the funding and support of these two fine ladies. But as Nate so eloquently said, really is a testament to all the good people that you have in your school system. Cooks and custodians and our parents who will help us to understand the holistic experiences of our kids and how we can address graders the best way possible.
And so like Chuck mentioned, we're really grateful to be able to work with such a collaborative team to support our building. This work couldn't be done individually. So it's really important, I think, to be able to share that as well. One thing we like to think about at Rocky Branch is that we like to have a holistic approach when it comes to our students. We have started doing a couple of years ago, many days with our students. So most of you who might not be familiar with that, is it's taking literally 1 minutes to meet individually with every single student in the building to do a survey based on their needs and just about how they're doing. Greenwood did at the beginning of this school year, just to learn from parents about how their kids were feeling about getting back to school and having big things happen while they were out in the spring. We do something called proactive student consumer meetings with teachers as well. I meet with each grade level team of teachers 3 times a year to go through the entire roster of all students, just to check in to see how kids are doing academically, behaviorally, if they got their mental health or other things that are happening. Students, parents, and teachers can all request to have individual meetings with either myself or some of our student psychologists. And we also do our data gigs. They're 3 times a year in the fall, the winter, and the spring, to review academic data to make sure that kids are receiving what they need, and also dovetail that with the information that we have from our minute meetings and from our student concerns meetings as well.
As Judy pointed out in this presentation, we talked about our PLCs. This is one of the connection areas that we make in our PLCs. We're not only looking at data that comes up from our Ames lab and our other tests, but our unit meetings with our kids and our cooperative concern are all conversations that roll into that holistic approach to we are meeting our students.
We make a variety of connections with our students and families as well. Our teachers do classroom-wide meetings to check in with kids. I have my classroom guidance lessons with the department for 2nd grade and every other week for grades 2 to 5. I do lunchbox groups with students, and my goal is to be able to have lunch with every single student throughout the school year. And I get the kids less than my box in one time per lunchbox, so it's something you really enjoy. And I'm glad to be able to keep that going this school year, even with our commitment as well. We have social skills groups to be able to help us proactively with students gaining their social skills. Obviously, we also have individual sessions with myself and school psychologists. Those have increased this year because it has been a little bit more challenging to run small groups, given the cohort model in elementary school. Our staff has gone above and beyond and making deliveries to homes to be able to connect with families as well. And we've had students on quarantine to be able to make sure that kids have the supplies that they need. And we've had really an increase in communication with home this year. A staff survey that we did just recently showed that the school year has made many additional connections with parents to meet the needs that students and families have. So in that, at the beginning of the year, we decided that we really needed to focus on social emotional in the classroom and then also school-wide. And so this is kind of how we did both of those. Within the classrooms, those morning meetings have been really important. Our teachers have been working really hard to make sure that they're not just about the Pledge of Allegiance, but it's about making a daily connection with the students. They are the ones who have their feet down on the ground and they get to see the students on a daily basis. So it's also how we're starting to find out if there are some of those social emotional concerns that are coming up. Our teachers have started happy notes home. It's something that they're trying to build positive communication skills, not just about the behavior, but also making those positive connections. Again, the increased parent communication. This has happened across the board. We sent out a survey when we were going to do this, and they've said that across the board, this has been probably teachers who have gone for 20 years. They have said that this is one of the years that they have had the most communications with parents, just because they feel like not only is it positive communication, but also making sure that they want to connect with those kids because they don't want people to fall through the cracks this year. We've added some calming corners in the classrooms for students to be able to take breaks. They're in the 3rd through 5th grade. They're using counting power growth mindset topics to make sure that students are not only connecting with each other, but also starting to work on some of those social emotional connections. We're using journaling in classrooms, real-life about social emotional topics, and then also the individual check-ins that the teachers are having really on a daily basis with those kids. And then with the school-wide, we've been working with our character education, both in the building and the classroom. As the Greenwood had mentioned, we did the 30-day social emotional lessons at the school at the elementary level put together. We also do weekly connections with the virtual school. So the 3 of us rotate on a weekly basis to make sure that we're building those connections with those students. When and if they do come back, they have a common face and they have people that they know that they can come back to and know that there's familiar people in the building. Our Sunshine Committee has done a wonderful job doing distant camaraderie and just working on making sure that we as a staff don't have burnout this year. It's been something that they've been working on to make sure that we are also staying positive. And then the collegial support for one another. As you are all aware, Rocky Branch has had some ups and downs as the year started out with school closures, and also we've had some just classroom closures. And in that, it has been amazing how our staff, everything from the parents to the student service team to the front desk lady, I mean, everybody has just come in and made sure that the students are getting what they need, the packets are being made, copies are being made. If a teacher goes out on quarantine at 2 hours to get everything set up, we have entire teams that just step in, step up, and make sure everything gets done. And so that has been pretty amazing. And then lastly, one of our newest programs is that we started this year, Amanda and I have started the companion dog program. And we actually work closely with middle school. Summer Virus has also started this program. And so we have 2 dogs in the school that they each come weekly. And we have Edie, the Portuguese water dog, and Maggie, the Pomeranian. And Amanda and I have done this for the last month. We've actually, since having this card, and we have now reached 45 students in the last month with this program, and it is currently an individual to a small group basis. We have used them in therapy like speech and language pathology in the OT room, and then we have also done individual counseling with students for social emotional needs, reading with the dogs, and then also just a positive reward for those students who just need something positive. So overall, the kids are loving these animals. We've provided a really good calming presence for them, lots of energy and joy, and then it's building connections that Amanda and I, when we do individual and like last year group counseling and stuff like that, this has provided us a different opportunity to have with students. And one thing that we've seen with these dogs that have been really neat is there are students who have behavioral issues or different disorders that just get kind of ramped up. And we have used the dogs to also help bring them down. They've been able to calm down quickly and get to resolutions. And that's been really neat to be able to see that.
It really provides a different way of reaching children. We have students that suffer from some pretty severe emotional needs. Loss of a parent or a loss of a family member to an ADD that might, and the students that work with the dog, they can have a release and a refocus. Many times you either get them back into the classroom, back on track, or it provides a source to get out that deep emotion that they have. So it's a really remarkable experience. I've never really had this before, so
That's what we have for our presentation today. Does anyone have any questions?
The dogs just get to stay in the home without a cat.
That is a great question. We do it on an individual basis. We have a referral form that teachers, any staff member can complete, including paras or teachers. And then what we do from there is we invite with different invites, and then from there we have appointments. So, for example, Edie is my dog, so I bring her in on Fridays, and I set appointments. We usually go between 4 to 6 appointments. We have 10 to 15-minute appointments, and then from there, we give the dogs a break, and then we bring in the next kid. So my Fridays are typically doing individual counseling, and then Amanda, because of how she goes into the classroom, she's on a rotating day, so maybe might be on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but she's doing the same thing. And even this past week, she saw Ted in one day, so there's a lot, I mean, the demands that kids are wanting with it. And we are starting to see some of our students who have, I would say the ones who have more social emotional needs, they are going to do regular visits with the dogs. So we're trying to make sure that all those who aren't present at one, but we are also making sure that those with the most significant needs, if it's something that's helping them throughout the day, that we use the dogs for that. Yeah.
That is a bit tough, because it was time commitment.
Yeah, it is a little bit different we discussed it today, but it's been just a joyful experience for some of the students.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to continue down our list here, and next one will be the Renaissance Shepherds, that is the program update. So, here's the show, now.
Everyone, I'm Chris Silver, and program coordinator for Renaissance Charter Academy. The middle school I visited that packs a big punch, right around the corner here, 1107 Lawson. And I'm joined by Molly Scanlon, our guidance counselor, and Jackie Graham. So we're here just to give you a little update on the Renaissance Academy, and there are a few things that we're doing to help kids grow and achieve in our program.
And I just would like to mention, Tara's not here, but she found the registration in the auditorium, so she might join us after they finish here.
Awesome. So who do we serve at, we say the RCA, the Renaissance Charter Academy? We can support and understand the kids that we work with. We work with students who have experienced, in many cases, some form of social anxiety, students in transition, students who thrive in just a more personalized, smaller environments that haven't thrived in a traditional high school setting. We work with students who need wraparound services, and we work with students that are experienced trauma and require, smaller teacher and student ratio for student to teachers. So right now we have 59 students in our program. This is a 10 student increase over last year's average enrollment. The big difference this year is we're dealing with 32 seniors, and we're working towards their graduation goal, 19 juniors, 6 sophomores, and 6 freshmen. This year we have 50% free reduced lunch qualification. That's down a little bit, but we can assume that's in part because of the free lunch that are showing up. So we have as much of registration there. 22. That's the number of students who entered the program at least one semester behind in credit. A small number 1 year behind. So we're working with students who are in a little bit of a catch-up game. That's our job to support them in that process. One thing that we're kind of proud of this year is that one is the total number of discipline incidents in our 2021 school year. So we feel we're trying some new things, which we'll talk about in just a minute, that are working. With that said, truancy continues to be an area of concern and challenge for us that we're addressing and trying to work with strategies to reach those students. But that is a concern that we have not wanted. How are we structured at the Renaissance? Well, we have program oversight in collaboration with Joe Gretz, who's the assistant principal at the high school. Myself as program coordinator. We have an administrative assistant, and we have 4 SPE instructional staff, part-time social worker, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays all day at the Renaissance, and a part-time guidance counselor half days on Tuesdays and Thursdays. This is a change for us. We have this level of student support paid off already. Lots of dividends for our kids. So I'd like to, join the rest of the school, just talk briefly about what we're doing to support our kids, especially during the pandemic, which has been challenging for everybody. So we'll start with this, our mission. And this has been the mission since I've been in this program. We strive to ensure that all students have the emotional support and a firm grasp of the core academics and skills necessary to achieve post-secondary life goals. And we want to ensure that you notice what comes first in that statement. Kind of mental clarity is kind of, mental before bloom. You have heard that's what we're about, is making sure that the kids have the foundation, the support that they need to move forward successfully. And that is an equity issue. Some kids need more than others. And our job is to identify that and support the kids in their dreams. We lean heavy on 2 approaches. We lean heavy on the trauma-informed strategy, like the rest of the district. Responsiveness to students who have experienced some form of trauma. We know that's a fair number of our students. And it's our challenge and opportunity to help them rebuild trust in others so that they can succeed once they get out of the Renaissance. The second thing we've been leaning on is Dr. Ross Green's collaborative problem solving.
So the idea here is our basic assumption is that students will do good when they can. And that negative behaviors are often the result of unrecognized lagging skills. So as educators, it's our job to identify those skills and to help the student with behavior rather than just assume that the student is seeking attention. If you haven't heard of Dr. Ross Green or haven't looked into it, it's well worth the journey because he's got an interesting approach, kind of flipping around how to work with behaviors. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. Green, challenging behavior occurs when the demands being placed upon the individual outstrip the skills that he or she has to respond adaptively. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Molly Scanlon, and she's going to talk about how we engage our at-risk and missing students during the pandemic.
Yes, I'm sorry if you're getting sick of seeing me, but I'm also at Renaissance and really just want to talk about what an amazing staff. The elementary just touched on it earlier, but truly it's a community at Renaissance that is all about the minute the student walks in the door, supporting that student in a very holistic, very supportive way. Constant communication with students from text, emails, letters. If a student doesn't show up, texting the students who might know where that student is. We have to kind of think a little bit differently on how you're reaching out to students. Definitely providing grace and flexibility for students, not only during this time, but the mission of the program is really providing flexibility for assignments, for when things need to be due, in curriculum. We do have a tracking system and communicate as a staff on a weekly basis regarding students' grades, attendance, if there's some concerns that we need to support students with collectively, if there's been a tragedy with them, providing support for the Sunshine Fund, things like that. There are home visits and check-in groups that are offered at the high school are sometimes offered and available for students at Renaissance. So I did try something over there with the social connection, and we tried to decorate cookies. There wasn't a huge crowd, but we offered it to students all that interested. But we tried. Students with academic needs also are requested to come in on Friday. So if they're behind in any way, then we ask for them to come in on Friday. We do follow all the social distancing. So it's a smaller space, but we try and keep the students spaced out. So we might be in one classroom or go between different classrooms depending on how many students we have. It's been very well attended. I'd say we've had as few as just one student to maybe as many as 10 or so students that have come in on that Friday. Over in the same. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Jackie Good.
Hi, I'm a social worker for Renaissance High School. I'm at Renaissance Monday, Wednesday, Friday. A lot of what I do is phone calls, reaching out to families, connecting with families and students with resources within the community, and that helps their social emotional skill development. Many of the places I work with are listed our Neighbor's Place or start a new partnership with Treasures. They're willing to be vouchers for families in need on a crisis basis. Turning points and helping with rental assistance, numerous other places I deal with. Those are just a few. I contact and have a good communication with St. Croix and Pierce County. I have just joined the St. Croix committee for community services, which lots of social workers within the county and then some school social workers too. It's a good way to hear about new resources and I think it's going to be a good connection. Some of what I did in the beginning of the year was connecting families that didn't have internet technology or internet access, dropping off clothes, school supplies, always providing emotional support to students and families, phone calls, making referrals to mental health agencies, trying to connect families and students to use the school-based therapy that's offered. And AA resources, and there's a couple of support groups that I've connected some families to with Turning Point and SART. Planning is kind of exciting. Going to implement a mindfulness program starting in February. Get a grant to pay for a person to come in and do a virtual mindfulness. We're going to start with small group sessions to see, do a pre and post test with the kids to see if we see a difference. And if it does work well, then continue for the rest of the year doing those. I wish it could be in person, but we can't right now. Also trying to I'm working with START, which is the Sexual Assault Response Team. They are going to do a Wednesday evening teen group for students. I don't know if we'll get a good response to that, but we're going to offer that to them. And then the Fierce Freedom is a group that works with sex trafficking. And I would like them, they're willing to come and talk to the staff for a presentation and then the students. We haven't picked a date on that one. So I'm kind of excited about that. That's all I got.
Thank you, Jackie. So I would say that it's been a game changer for us to have that support level. Someone who knows the community resources, someone who is spending time with families individually and in crisis situations, and with Molly's support with the academic, achievements for those students. It's really been a game changer for us. I think that's a good way to put it. In the midst of all this too, we continue to train our staff and distance learning techniques as we've had to pivot like everybody else. And I'm very, very much proud of where we've gone with that. There's been a lot of comparisons between last March and April and now, and it's amazing to see. I just had a chance to look at some video clips of our teachers that they sent me in terms of their distance classes. It's amazing the tool that they have and where we've come from in March to now. I guarantee you that there's learning going on. Okay, these students are achieving benchmarks that they would normally achieve. We're doing it in a slightly different way, but I'm proud to say I don't feel that there's been a huge loss, that they're still with us because of the time to our strategies for distance learning. We collaborate, we're a strong team. I think you agree. We meet weekly in response to students of concern, family situations. We work together. We're very tight-knit group over there. We're getting a lot better at identifying warning signs when students and families are facing some hardship. In terms of our programming, we continue to drive culturally responsive curriculum. That's huge. This is who we are. Trauma-informed strategies, and the BDF Renaissance is our personalized approach. We meet kids, every kid, where they're at, and we do what we can to help them to identify their challenges and help them move forward. So when they get out of the Renaissance, they'll be contributing members of society. So we're proud of that in the way that we personalize. Any questions?
Quick question. You said you have 59 students? Yes. Are you at capacity?
We are.
I kind of remember thinking you're at capacity.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's in transition, in fairness, we have some kids that go into the workforce, do internship, or, that sort of thing. So the numbers have been full a little bit, but, we have been pretty full the last 2 years this year. I think we picked up some kids that just work better. This is a better option for them in terms of the pandemic and the time we're in. We can offer them more support. We are right now. So we are what we call 8/2 schedule. So we took their 4 core classes, English, language arts, science, social studies, math. We teach those in person. And then they have 4 electives, which range from arts, novels, and things like that they do. We have synchronous classes on Wednesday. Student classes, and then kids work on those on the other 2 days that are home. So 3 days of full instruction, 2 days working on the elective. We thought that the core classes were important, that they needed to be the face-to-face, not involved.
In terms of pass rates, it seems to be working. We're not far off from where we were before COVID.
Of course, I really appreciate you being here. This is a really important part of this district in my comment board program. I asked a good question about the past, and we can talk about that another time. When is that program forward? Or what are we doing to get it? One of the things that is, in all my time on board and our attention to my staff, it just seems so great to connect to the field administrator, a counselor, and a social worker, and a staff member presenting on behalf of the grant that we've never had that much support. So it's useful to get that. So I appreciate that. We talked about having one of our community over there sometime in the
I understand you're gonna come to the mother. Yeah.
Well, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Great. Great. Thanks for being the mindfulness person, man.
Yeah.
Could you give us a little idea of how big examples of what you
Oh, yeah.
a lot of your efforts into the
Yeah, for sure. We know it really goes back to having multiple indulgence. We don't assume kids all learn the same way. And a lot of kids have a lot going on in the back, right? We have to meet them where. So I'll give you an example. We have a kid who was in American Lit class. Kid does computer programming and web development. So we work with the students to set up content-based approach so that we can make the same, benchmarks from American Lit by designing websites that explain now they're reading now. It's in the RIDE website, everything you need to know about the author and the character. So, and meeting that student where they're at in terms of their interests and skill based, but still meeting the requirements of the course. There are dozens of examples like that. Because we're smaller, we have the time, we have, the time to meet with the students, discuss what the work does, we have that luxury in our program. So we're not hung up on all kids learning the same way.
What are your, has the hybrid model impacted your retention? Significantly?
I think it has affected it significantly. Maybe not so much. We've struggled with attendance for a number of reasons in that program. Family transitions. Right now, we're dealing with a couple of students who are homeless situations. So there's a lot going on that affects attendance. But I think in a way we're balancing that out with Jackie Cole because one of her primary roles is to find out where they're at and see if we can get them back. So is it far out from where we were? Not necessarily. We're a little bit further than we were last year in terms of, like I said, attendance and truancy is an ongoing challenge for us. So, but it helps again to have the support of Jackie to locate them. Yeah. Yep.
I want to also mention that there about employment.
Yeah. We're proud of that, and I appreciate that.
Proud of that, because that means a whole bunch of things are working out really well.
Well, I appreciate it because I think, in the community, there's a reputation, every school has things to say about it, right? And I think the Renaissance, unfortunately, has been sometimes categorized as students that tend to get into trouble and so forth. So to me, that's really good work with that, that we've been able to implement, some of the rostering strategies and tactics and some of the comments for them. We show kids that we care about them. So it's not us against them with their population. We're very much a family environment. So been chipping away at that for a couple of years, and it really shows now because the students feel they belong there. They're not trying to satisfy at this point.
Thank you very, very much, all of you, for being here. All right, the next one is Mr. Rowe. We're doing the EID update.
Good evening. So tonight's update is all about continuing transparency and communication as we go through the process of ICS. About a month and a half ago, I've got an old black lab dog, who's about 13 years old. About a month and a half ago, my wife was looking at years on her phone, and we were signing up for a dog. And in no time, we had a place in a litter. And on Saturday, we went and met a puppy for the first time. And by Saturday afternoon, I was turning out a cupboard in our kitchen for a spot for that dog. Now, normally that would be really hard for me, but it wasn't because my wife and I had talked about the fact of where this dog is going to go, how we're going to keep him, these sorts of things. So the turning of the cupboard was not a surprise. So the purpose of tonight's activity work is not a puppy, not a dog, it's nothing that's new to the district. The history of these non-negotiables are that we talked about them last year with our staff. Each school talked to their staff, received feedback about what strengths they saw, what challenges they saw, and those sorts of things. So it's been a part of the conversation. And so right now, what we're just talking about now is to bring it back up to the forefront. The first part of the year, we spent a lot with our EID committee, we established that. Now we're bringing back the non-negotiables. So the non-negotiables are meant to be kind of the backbone of our activity work. And so it's important that as we go forward, we understand as administrators, as staff, as board members, as committee members, what these things will do, so that when you're in our kitchen taking on cover, people understand the why behind it and are supportive of it. So we're going to take these in small chunks. This is just purely informational tonight. It's to not necessarily start dialogue now, but to set the stage for dialogue in the future. So tonight we'll look at the non-negotiables 2 and 3. There is a 1 that was pretty easy. The number 1 says that we all agree that we're empowered to make it. So I don't want to spend too much time on that one. We felt that other ones we can go a little bit more looking at. So this one is student involvement. All organizational programming is representational and equitable. So that sounds great, right? That sounds like, hey, maybe we're going to get the dog. But what does that mean? What are all the steps that are in there? So what we did is we brought these to the staff members, staff with feedback on it. And I took all of the information from all of the schools that we had and kind of condensed it into this document. So the first one is strengths, so the reservation and challenge, and that's probably the most important part to put our thoughts in and understand. And then the guiding questions are those questions that Dave and I brought to you, I don't know, 2 months ago, just as questions asked for doing this work. So I won't read all of them, but essentially what it's saying is that if we are doing equity work correctly, we should have proportional representation of students in all programs and in staff and all staffing areas. So if we look at socially disadvantaged students, you see the same number of those students in all of our programs, because the representation in the community and the school. That sounds like a great idea, because it is, but it's hard. So how are we going to do that? When Pitt is looking at honors courses, and I was just looking at data from 2 years ago, and the proportionality of color and white students in our advanced courses, there's a discrepancy there. So how do you address that? There's all sorts of different ways. The ICS model would say that we should look at leveling up classes, which I won't get into. But these are conversations questions we need to ask, we need to get people to explain to each other so that when something like leveling up and fast does happen, we're not surprised to understand the why behind it. In here, the idea of that came out that would be a theme I think coming through for the speaker is this idea of more PD and more collaboration. Hearing Christmas team share about the Renaissance, their ability to differentiate, and when you talk about asset-based model, the Renaissance school is doing that. A lot of collaboration, a lot of time to dig into things. So in the traditional buildings, that's something that's going to have to come up with more time for teachers to learn and to collaborate. So that's one of them tonight. Any questions or comments on that one?
An example of about 2/3 of the way down the middle of heterogeneous grouping can cause problems for others, specifically from others.
Right. So that's a common narrative that we hear about is that, okay, if I'm going to spend, so like equity isn't giving each child the same thing, right? Giving each child what they need. So if I'm taking an equitable approach in my classroom, in my instruction, some students might be getting more time than others. So I'll take elementary because I'm familiar with that. If I have a heterogeneous mix of my reading group, then if I don't do it correctly, a parent could say that my child isn't getting the instruction that they need because they're part of this group. This is not an ability group. An ability grouping that's pretty easy to deliver on. So that's a mindset that we have to recognize and be willing to grapple with and address.
So do we want to change that mindset? That like fairly groups are important, or ability?
Good question. So like the when it says reservations, that's a reservation I can see as being a teacher in the classroom. When I hear heterogeneous grouping, that feels like a lot to me. That's just a real feeling to it. We want to change the mindset to say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do heterogeneous grouping. What's best for students, social emotionally, and research shows that academically is the best. So it's a mindset we have to change. But once again, it's like tearing out the covers. How are we going to support our teachers in doing that? And then that falls on administration and board. And the last non-negotiable with finance policies. So certainly, yeah, change the mindset because we want her to use it. And these are things, so process-wise, we're doing these have been brought to the admin teams, to the building principals, with the idea that we'll go into buildings. And so between now and when these things get approved, it's all part of that feedback loop. So this isn't the final discussion, and like what would be awesome would be when we come back to approve these whenever, May or June or July, sometime for the next fall, that we have a better understanding to have more items in that reservation challenges and possible application section. The next was educational teams are intentionally designed and collaborate on grade level teams to increase and transform one another's instructional capacity. So this is really about strong PLCs, not just strong collaboration comments or PLC, but strong mission, vision, beliefs, and strong understanding of what's going on. The idea is that we think outside the box of what a grade level team looks like. It doesn't just mean it's the first grade teacher. It doesn't mean it's a certain department at a certain grade level. Think about who's there and who's not there. Think about who our students are and what their needs are. So at the elementary level, it means I'm collaborating with the reading specialist, special ed teacher. I'm actually collaborating with any paraprofessional or educator assistant that might be my passion, but all those people bring a new sense of perspective to the students that we're dealing with. So, in terms of the end results of this, it just means that we really focus on how we're collaborating, how we're sharing our knowledge, and how to leverage all of that to best support our students. And that's one of the answers to like, how do you make it feel like you're not looking at a cabinet when it comes to differentiation? This can be collaboration and understanding how to work together as a team. My 10-minute time just went off on the stuff. Any other questions or thoughts or feedback?
I have one more question.
Yeah.
But I have to go back to the first one.
Yeah.
That's okay. All right, unless you have a rule that I only can ask about the second one.
We're just moving forward. We're not looking back.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to. So when we talk about organizational priorities, representational equity, I think myself included, we tend to think certain activities are inherently more interesting for certain groups, right? So is proportionality always involved? You understand what I mean?
Yeah, I guess I would run some strong examples. And there's quite a few biases built into things, right? You know, there's only certain students that are attracted to the track team, but that track team, I mean, I don't know where a person's race, gender, sexuality, religion would change their desire to be. I mean, maybe there's some of that, but I have to think about the biases involved in that.
So the assumption is that there's something about the setup or the structure or something like that that's creating an equitable interest.
Right. I don't want to join the chess club because people in school don't see me as being, you know, being that kind of student, so then I stay away from it. So the problem isn't with the students, the problem is with who is running the chess club, how it's being presented, how we welcome students, and then you can take that same example and apply it to all sorts of programming. So these are the first of two. We bring back another couple next month. Like the goal is to better understand these so that at some point, hopefully before next fall, we can improve them. It was one of our action items that we had identified this year in our equity work. So it's pretty big and pretty important one.
Remember how many non-negotiables are there?
We have 7. Yep.
All right. Maybe you're back again.
As we're participating in this jam-packed agenda this evening, a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is, remember, we didn't meet a Monday ago. We're playing a little bit of catch up, and to be honest, we've been forced to have COVID dominate so much of the decision making and the work that is done at the board level that we found ourselves putting catch up on some other really important aspects in the district. Thanks everybody for taking the lengthy agenda. Typical slides. Again, I never want to go too fast to say turning over these. They're always attached to the board book. It's always placed on our district website for other people to refer to later on. This is the St. Croix County dashboard. Pierce County dashboard. That's an encouraging number. Aaron, what did you say? You thought that number doubled in a week or more than that?
On Fridays, this morning, Friday's data said 770 something, and now it jumped to 1587 today. Karen said they did a drive-through clinic over the weekend.
So ramping up some vaccines in Pierce County. positivity rates. Again, female too. Where we sort out lots of regional school district regions, school district boundaries, not by school district. The way to compare and see where do we line up compared to the average. This is a 7-day average COVID rate. This is the Pierce County School District data, and that takes us to this next slide. Our numbers are, you know, there's never a week that goes by where we don't have new cases, but the good news is they're not flying through the roof, and we'll take another look at this a couple ways. This particular slide, I'll double up here and show you the more recent. So today's numbers are reflected in this column along with the average of those prior 13 full weeks. I want to grab a couple of things. Go ahead on here. This is a new slide added. And so it shows that this is just the number of COVID cases in our district. So whether it was by student or by staff, positive cases. And so we started the year off, and you can see that in November and December, we were not trending quite so well. Some were theorizing, wait till after Thanksgiving, and wait till after that December holiday break and see what happens then. So far, although we do have another week left yet for this month, so far we're trending at least in the correct direction. So just back to this slide, always gives you the summary in blue where we're currently at. Everybody knows grades 7 through 12 in a hybrid, PK through 6th grade, 5 days a week, basic kids. We noted here on the slide that we want to continue in that learning environment. However, I'm talking with a couple board members, including Stacy this afternoon, that I'm gaining a greater sense of the desire for the board and our community, frankly, to bring up some options to be considered for us to move towards 5 days a week, basic grades, all students. We'd all love to do that. And so to put it front and center that we're not recommending the change here tonight. I don't see us walking in the door a week from tonight and recommending a change that would follow for the following week either. However, I do think that we need to continue to talk about this topic. I think we need to continue to get feedback from you as a school board. You saw the feedback that we got received from parents and staff on some of these related decisions. We shared the survey results with you. And so I just got a couple things, points to ponder, things to think about, options to be considered. If and when we're going to return to 5 days a week. We can't find ourselves suddenly shifting. Let's throw away all the data now. Let's just lean on what the survey tells us. Let's just go with public opinion from now on. I don't think we want to necessarily do that. I think we should care about public opinion. If we didn't care, we wouldn't have asked. We do care. We asked our staff and our parents, what are your opinions? So we do care about that, but survey results alone do not rule the day. COVID case data has to be continued to stabilize is a choice of words that I put here. Stabilize, no longer increase, no longer continue to rise, see some stabilization. Ideally, that word would say decrease, minimize. I'm sure you as a board will have your own terms to use in place of stabilize. Safety has to remain priority one. Well, what's up with the new strain of the virus? I've heard here today, I think they're as close as Eau Claire perhaps. There's been some pretty legitimate diagnostic evidence that at this new strain that is more contagious, although not necessarily more deadly, more contagious, is certainly here in Wisconsin. How does that enter into our thinking? Should we have a transitional phase between this hybrid blended learning where 7th through 12th grade is at school a couple days or at home a couple days? Should we think about a transition? So should we have the 7th graders come to school 5 days a week? Should we have the high school come 4 days a week? A transitional kind of conversation that I think we should consider as we would all love to move towards 5 days a week. I listed on there, yeah, we should listen to feedback. Absolutely. Educator vaccine comes into play. When are we slated for the vaccine for our staff? How does that enter into your thinking? Good. Do we wait? So if we think right now, the best projection that we have right now is that we're going to get our staff vaccinated with the first dose sometime in mid-February. Then we all have to wait 1 month to get the second shot. So let's play that out in our mind a little bit. That would mean if we were to say, no way we're going 5 days a week, no matter what, it's not happening unless everybody gets a vaccine. And there are those that subscribe to that opinion. If we were to do that, then we might as well call it what it is. We're probably looking at April to be back to school 5 days a week. You as a board will need to debate and consider, decide upon whether you're willing to wait that long or not. Why do I say April? Because mid-February for dose number 1 takes you to mid-March for dose number 2, followed by spring break in March, followed by April 1st. Do we want to wait that long, or do we want to try to do some transitional things before that? And so those are kind of the talking points and the discussion points there. I'll just jump ahead and then finish my slides and listen to your conversation. Again, COVID data has to be paramount in our thinking. A reminder, remember, compared to an elementary teacher that has, let's say, 25 kids in their classroom, or 23, compared to a high school staff member that might see 75 to 90 kids per day. And class sizes, in some cases, not all, but in some cases, all kids come back 5 days a week. There's going to be 25 to 32 kids in some of our classes. And those kids leave, and another 25 to 32 come in, and then another 25 to 32 come in. So it's different. The exposure is different from an elementary teacher to a high school. Those are things to consider. I'm reiterating the new strain, kind of the vaccine schedule, survey results, and so on. The last slide, again, COVID numbers we need to keep an eye on, not just find ourselves ignoring data, the science. Last slide, this has been a marathon and continues to be one, but we are approaching the final leg, so it would seem, with a vaccine on the horizon. So let's not be complacent in all of our personal behaviors here at school, not at home, not in our community. We got to stay home when we're sick. We got to stay physically distant to the best of our ability, wear a mask, sanitize, and all those things. We're not at the finish line yet, so we have to remain vigilant.
Thank you. I'm going to have conversation about the as well as we can talk about the. So, questions, comments, observations, and more.
Yes, I have questions and comments. Okay. Is that right? Yeah. The question that I have is outside of the church vaccination. I'm wondering if the conversation has been had at all because about the one day they've been vaccinated, and we have about 55 enrollments, and 3 residents are vulnerable or have a pre-existing condition. And now when we call the 6 jobs, 6 pandemic vaccinated, and now another 61. One of the things that we talked about is the students with great COVID, multi-generational families, and those vaccinations are starting to happen. Now, even a teacher of a position could possibly be eligible for the vaccine in that 1 year. And we talked about an exactly discussion on that some of those vulnerable groups are getting the vaccination, and so it might be a year or so as well, instead of coming back 5 days a week. Was that what kind of discussion at all?
In part, if I'm following your question correctly, we do have some of our staff have already received their first vaccine, just in the category of nursing staff and health aides, speech and language, OT, PT. And so they will be ahead of the game a bit. That maybe relates a little bit to your question, but not entirely. I'm not sure I'm following the rest of it.
No, I just think what I'm trying to think is that there's that tier 1A, right? So, if you talk about that live in multi-generational families, and that was part of the reason why we didn't have recommendations for face-to-face, but now that group is starting to get the vaccination, and there are concerns on face-to-face for medical department, and outside of that group that come in, but maybe have a condition that they be eligible to get vaccinated before the group. That's what I'm asking.
Well, we don't know who has received the vaccine, certainly not in the community, but I appreciate your point would be another factor to consider, that some of those most vulnerable people that we are attempting to protect, as well as our own students and our own staff. Your point is that some of them are being vaccinated as we speak.
Yeah.
I would just make sure I'm clear. That's the thing. There's your name is one. We're starting on that. 1A is long-term care facilities and healthcare. So, but I think it's a good point. The more people that get vaccinated in these categories, I don't know how to quantify this, but it does be risk reduction in terms of serious illness. I don't want to overstate. I don't want to mislead that doesn't mean there's a way. There's still risk that people don't know if they haven't been sick and not category what they're going to, how they're going to respond. But I do believe that it's some kind of risk. And for epidemiological reduction in frequency of risk to that category of people. Exactly, yeah.
50% reduction after you get your first dose. There's a 50% less of a likelihood that you will contract. Varies by individual person, varies by whether you get the Moderna vaccine or whatever, but I confirm that statistically easy today. Is that relevant in the thinking of all of this?
So it's like any of the things that will inform, potentially inform our decision. So let's say the C would be our own experience so far continues to inform us, right? And learn a lot, learn to talk with us. If we get better for But often you do it, it's not always the way you do it in a year. It's very critical for learning. So I think that's a seed that ought to be up there, but it's significant. The D, I would think, is hardly informed by our neighborhood district. Because they've got the same kind of experience. We're not all doing this the same, because we're not getting that kind of state national direction. But, so how successful are they and how does that continue to inform us? I think they can help us understand they see more. What kind of reactions are they taking? We're seeing in the population of the districts up here, there's a lot of variation between those districts in terms of the number of infections within the district, not necessarily.
What I provide you there is a piece of running document. So all of the districts in CC3 and where they're currently at, and you can see the history of the different learning environments. This does not answer your question. What are they seeing? What is their success? Where are they at with COVID cases? What it does tell you, what are they doing for a learning environment? That's all that provides.
Personally, what I think is that it's hard for me to imagine a scenario where we would go to what we are today, is that 100% in-person side visits. It seems to me that there has to be some staffing things in that way. I don't know exactly what the impact of all of that is, because it has to do with vaccination. It has to do with staff and how they are being comfortable. I think that we need to start thinking about what that step would be and laying down the plan so that when we are there, we are ready. We know what we're doing, know what the actions are. As Jamie said, if that means goes back and incremental numbers or something. Really clear that you guys are going to involved and I'm not. But it's a incremental so that if there's a problem, we pull back. If we have success, we add more.
I offer some, maybe come away with a timeline. Everyone's in support of coming back. I think I'm probably in support of maybe pushing that, a little bit further than it is now. But what I think, I would also like to see that incrementally, that becomes the middle school, either cohort or some version of a 4-year week. I don't know exactly, but in terms of the timeline, one thing that occurs to me is at least, I think no matter when this happens, if it's April, May, or tomorrow, there's going to be a point where there's just unknown for 2 to 3 weeks, like there was, just don't know how it's going to work. And so if you had a March 1st timeline for making some of these changes or changes, and being able to assess what that looks like for a couple of weeks leading up to spring break, you have to build in staffing. It gives you some time to say, okay, what did the first 2 to 3 weeks look like with or maybe more if we start transitioning slowly, but you have a built-in stopping point that could be kind of a regroup period after spring break. What could be that ceremony April 1st. And you might get a sense of how that works. Not here, after spring break, try something like that. You've already lost the stopping, that open stopping point. So I would like to see that happen prior to spring break, and whether that's a ramp up to February, I would feel more comfortable seeing all of the staff who want the vaccine given the first dose. I feel that there's some measure of, to me it's it was on part of the, as far as we can with the first dose, but also not giving you completely on that time. If you would go, everyone's had 2 doses of basically saying April 1st. I would be okay with a little bit, 2 to 4 weeks of whatever that looks like. Maybe 2 weeks at one point, 2 weeks of the next step, leading up to spring break, so that you could been something to assess it. And I think it makes sense to me to do it that way. I think it makes sense the first round of that. And yeah, he's going to compromise on all sides.
Where the income help with health research that because we're continue to offer working for. And there could be some students who are okay with hybrid now, but we'll talk for. So if I'm looking at all the other school districts out here, none of them. Which is all that.
It's important to recognize, not saying that anybody who wants to, that anybody who wants to, we don't make that into that. What we can do is provide some ways of continuing to work on site for some years. We just want to.
I think it's important that whatever you do, decide to now also instead of 10% right away, because kids are still scared to go to school. And I think it's really important to have those slow incremental things for the, not only the staff, but the also not just, hey, you want to spend 5 days, even 4 days, and for the school, make it not really understand like that it's going to be a process of what the end goal is, so that they're not immediately forced into anything, because that's pretty scary. I know I want to go back on the reason I don't think any kids want to do that, but it's also like give us time because we are going to be vaccinated like this staff are, and not alone. It's a little nerve-wracking, but we can be in the school, but this gives time because not everyone would have, like you said, the option to go virtual. And having a hybrid schedule when most schools in person get really only 2 kids, like that gets really complicated really quickly. So it's allowing kids time to transition and comfortable with activities.
I think, I've fallen similar camp to Todd that I would tend to not want to wait till April 1st to start this process, and I think that we have a stopping point or that reevaluation point at spring break. And look at if we do it incrementally, I think it's probably the approach to do it. Look at the earlier grades, such as 7th and 8th, smaller cohorts. I think that makes sense. Now, how do we bring them back? We bring them back. You know, currently they're two to 2 personnel. I don't know if you can put that in 5 days, just like you mentioned, because it's really been almost a year since they've been at school for 5 days. It's quite a transition. I think that's me. So I think there's some kind of I guess, slowly easing in and start at the 7th and 8th grade level first, and then move into or 9th, 10th, and 11th. But I would like to see that started probably in February. And, you know, having a slow transition with this. At any point in time, we can say, well, this is the problem. Go back. We need to scale this down. By the time we spring break, we could do analysis of where we from the 7th to 12th.
I think that the culture is I think one of the things that administrators are doing is that there is some interest in figuring out how we're going to get to where we are right now to where we're going to be. And I don't think it's the role of the school board to talk all of those areas. Our interest in having new ones. What could that potentially look like? And like contribute to academic, academic and potential learning, and you're in a better position to manage. How do you make something in interest?
Oh, yes, I guess I just was going to agree with that. How we can not crazy about making a weekly change, but if to their impact, if you don't have
Mark and I talked often about this we both want, obviously, our kids back and want compassion. So I would again echo what your board objectives are, to try to find a meaningful transition that everyone can be comfortable. One of the things I would just suggest first and foremost is we talk about students being home for a year, because first and foremost of our 7 EL students, and that they represent about 12 to 15% of our population of both provinces. So when we have half of our students in, talking about bringing a smaller cohort of students, that we need between 60 and 75 students respectively in each of our buildings. Talk about where students need services, we need regular services, really options that can be considered with the spec students to bring them back in and up to speed. I feel like those students really, we're talking about closing gaps and worrying about gaps in one spot. The ideas are fantastic too, in that I think we jump from a 4 to a 5-day model. There's going to be a great deal of anxiety for adolescents in academics and a lot of worry related to that. So other school districts have adopted what we consider the 3-2 model. Your A cohort would go 3 days 1 week, your B cohort would go 2 days, and you would reverse that. You can stay in that model for 2 to 3 weeks and see how that goes. And then you can eventually move into a 4-day-week model where our setups are already catered to that with our Wednesdays that we have in terms of intervention. So I do believe that there are some scenarios that need to be considered and looked at. With looking at the number of vaccines, looking at the timing of the vaccines. And Mark and I are anxious with our teams and our students are willing, but there's a lot of apprehension and a lot of it has to still be based off of the vaccines.
So, I wish there was more we could do to keep the tire for all healthcare people got it right away. For some reason, the teachers can't get high enough on it. Put teachers firebox and somebody else. So anyway, that's one thing I don't know what else we can do. A few things when I'm thinking about conversation here about gradual change, thinking of standards and fully appreciate the fact that students are gradually moving that easier for them. But gradual change sounds like a lot of work for teachers. And we've asked them to do an awful lot this year, and just to keep changing the modality, this week it's going to be here, I'll have to change a little bit the next week or the next week. That's a lot of work for teachers. Again, I think it's just Stacy very clearly said, we're not going to get this. That's what we're going to do. Tell us what's good. I would want to be right. How can the teachers lead us to the team with the impact for double as work on teachers?
One of the things that is being presentation is that a teacher, if everyone's back in school, a teacher would have contact with 80 to 90 different students in a day. Do you know about how much contact they have now, how many students?
So right now, classes are averaging between, I would say 18 would be a good number. So 18 times 3. So we are seeing about half of that contact in that AV cohort that we have for the A2K LQZ cohort. So some of our teachers have 20 in the classroom and some of our teachers have 12, but I would say 16 to 18 is a very fair average.
And then looking at the other, in the chart, the staff survey, it looks like the middle school teachers are a little more apprehensive about everybody coming back than the high school teachers. Do you have a theory about that? I'm just curious. That's interesting to me that there's a difference. Okay.
I was in teams last week, but almost to be frank, this is the worst part of our jobs probably, the administrators. Sure. Is to balance the fears of teachers. We have this pendulum of anxiety, stress from some teachers like bring all the kids back to some that we should be engaged for. And to try to navigate that as a building administrator, we're also have parents who want their kids back at school has been really challenging. And we've had some really hard conversations at my work every Tuesday, not every Tuesday.
every couple of weeks. But that's the main focus. So 2 weeks ago, we talked with our staff about exactly what we're talking about tonight. And to Alan's point, transition, right? We're going to do so many different transitions and days for our teachers. At the end of the day, I'm speaking generalities, but feedback that we got, we evaluate the group dynamics of every team is different. Some teams are more stressed, some teams are more stressed than others. But the general vibe that I got from that last meeting was they would prefer not to have some sort of transition phase in between. Because it's one more change for the kids, there's one more change for parents, there's one more change for the staff. They prefer waiting for the vaccines come out and pull on full back. Again, I'm not speaking for the entire staff, that's the general vibe that I received from our staff. That's their opinion. I have a different opinion than that.
Yeah. What's the number of students you have contact with now on a typical day compared to all that about? Not exactly.
So basically, have students in the class. So
is it similar about half now?
Yeah, probably. So they seem to, I don't know, 15 kids, 10 kids, very board to board.
It was just, it's interesting me that because I think in terms of giving younger kids back a little bit earlier, right? And then to see the staff be more apprehensive about it with the younger kids seemed the opposite of, I guess, what I had in my head.
I guess the other thing I was just thinking about is to look at the numbers, look at the community spread within our schools. I have to think about how many staff and students that we have for environmental justice project out of the millions of interactions that we've had with our kids. Does anybody know that number? There's only 158 total in the district, I think. Well, that's and so the other question is, where have we done that? And we prove that we have contact, that we have community spread. There's only one case that I know for a building that I know for a fact that it was community spread. So it's just something else for us to be thinking about that. Yeah, meaning at school.
Not in our schools, that is a fact. It's recognized by the local health departments. Amy Snyder can tell you that. They asked her the question 3 months ago. She said, I can't say that for sure. I don't know that to be factual. She will tell you that right now, that to Mark's point. And it's theoretically, one would theorize it's because of the mitigation efforts that we employ.
So the one thing that I think the inner workings of every classroom in the high school and middle school, that when we talk about 80 to 90 contact points with all kids back, there's a part of me that drifts towards, isn't there a way that we can, I'm teaching that class, that nobody comes within 10 feet of me inside that classroom, or I don't know, and I'm not asking somebody to take out a tape measurement and do that for other reasons, but it's reasonable that I'm not talking about 80 to 90 kids that I would be doing a close contact with. One of those kids was positive, that I wouldn't necessarily be ruled out as a teacher or have additional concern to the teacher for being in close contact to that person. And so I want to at least be able to draw a line between those things too. I mean, I might walk past 100 or 200 people in a day, but I don't have a close contact with any of those people, and I would hope that we could try to design something for the teacher's benefit if we could participate right, where we say this has to be done under these conditions, where the teacher is separated as much as possible, even if it's emphasized more than normal. It seems reasonable that that actual close contact or like the high risk number that you focus on could be a lot smaller.
Right, and I think to that point, there's done research, right, and classroom setup, how much that is, the air quality, the airflow, so the ionization, and the airflow, and things like that makes a big difference. And classroom setup can make a big difference. I don't know what the start of each classroom is, but I agree completely. If there's a way that we can mitigate and so whenever it's possible, right, with that number of students, I would like to see it start to move. I'm curious if AZ Academy, if she had any advice on timing or anything like that? In your conversations with AD Snyder?
Regarding in terms of 2 to 5 days.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I thought when I spoke with her today, I was explaining we're going to have some of this conversation. And I said that the growing sense of parents and students and sentiment that I'm hearing from the school board is that if we think we can find a safe way to do it, we all have always wanted to get back to 5 days a week, but it feels like that pendulum is moving on a direction that we'd like to make it happen sooner than later, rather than just talking about our desire to have it. We're now in those phases. Let's see how we can make that happen. To which he replied, I get it, I understand. If you do a handout, and you can see that here, we are in a minority when it comes to our students being in our current blended hybrid in grade 7 12.
Again, our own experience and experience of our neighboring districts help us address those issues like teachers districts, how you run classrooms. Not something we have to reconsider. You would learn that all year long, in the other districts, and figuring out there's stuff out there, but you guys are listening, and I think figure it out and come across with a proposal of how this might work. But I do worry about because teachers are not trying to get vaccinated, get their modalities ready to go in a way that impacts them less. Our teachers aren't lazy, so I'm not trying to make excuses here, but if they've got to change modalities 2 or 3 times, that's less time and energy they get to face instruction. If they're working on redoing their classes over. So it needs to be what's in that process, I think, would benefit the students greatly.
One more comment from me. I think having the staff, the teachers specifically included in the conversation of how to make this happen in a way that may decrease the anxiety. Seeing the separation in the survey between the staff and the parents, I think is pretty glaring. And we've been transitioning staff in and out a couple of times at the university, and it is really stressful for people transitioning back when you were going to have that much contact with people. So having them involved in all, and I'm sure that all the administrators were, I think, just really being intentional about having them in all of those conversations in a way that they're from the ground up. I think it's going to be really, really important to get a successful transition.
As well as
Also important is that we're continuing on in this direction. We are in a very spot now.
Can I make a quick clarification on the number of students that a teacher would be exposed to? The person was in vain. It isn't, I think, not this right.
Yeah, 3 classes a day, so 16 would probably be a fair average. If they average 32 kids in each class.
No, I'm not questioning that number. I'm just saying, so what I was going to say is, if you put in 2 days, it's going to be the same as a day if they're all back, isn't it? I mean, so the step what's the exposure in 1 day? I'm not sure what you're thinking about there, but if the fact is in 1 day it's half of what they get, they're all back face to face. But even today in the hybrid mode, they still get the same exposure in 2 days as they would normally get in 1 day if they're all back. Is that right?
It's the same, correct, it's the same cohort of kids in 2 days in a row.
If you would take a week for that?
Yes, the same cohort of kids that they're exposed to 2 days in a row for that. And so if you were bringing both groups back, the number would be 75 to 90. So both cohorts were back. Would be 90 kids. It's a top in the top exposure cohorts. You would have that same 90 students exposed in essence. The one thing that I get talking to the probably at our high school level You know, I think our teachers are worried a little bit more about our students at high school level because they are more transient. They have jobs, they have cars, they're a little bit more out there. In the school districts around that are now full-time in person. And when Alan was talking about mitigation, they're not doing anything differently than we're already doing. The decision is just made to move forward in that process. There's no real opportunities similar to the elementary. We're not going to have kids sitting 6 feet apart as we do right now. Our classes are on average about 340 square feet. So if you do that to 32 kids, you're not going to hit a buffer zone. Everybody's going to be within 5 feet or less. So the schools that we talk to are very confident that our mitigation techniques that we are doing in school currently right now even have the capacity, have a high level of success at mitigating the COVID at the high school business itself. It's not a guarantee, because again, some school districts have more buildings and more growing pains. I was talking to a school district that's on that list that class this weekend, and they had to be okay as a board with 200 plus students out in close contact quarantine of a building of 1,100 students. If you get to that spot, how are you comfortable as a board? How comfortable is our community related to those responses? Because again, it is hit and miss based on district if you look at those numbers.
I would be comfortable, overall, probably any time after that first round of vaccination, and then anything after that would be a timeline that I would be comfortable with in terms of goal and going to do exactly what the regular people do. But I still like to no matter what we do, we're going to have to try something. I mean, unless you choose to stay exactly where we're at, and we have one there's always going to be a period of unknown for a couple of weeks. I don't think that's going to happen. I'd like to see a few
Amy, do you have anything you want to bring to the conversation?
Yeah, you know what, I was on board with the policy, I would like to see it for grade as a buffer zone. Yeah, it is when it comes down to for me, it's because the vaccinations have started, and some of the high risk populations have been through the vaccination, and certainly, Grand Hamilton is a lot higher. I'm feeling a little bit more comfortable about that. And then for the South, I appreciate what our representative said about being anxious and maybe a little bit nervous about that. But I also think that it is important to get good staff to basically more than they are now, just because of the social education should better protect the school.
Okay. So at this point, do we have a motion to control the spread of learning environment? Thank you. Are you willing to something, maybe? Yes. Okay. Further discussion? I think the next person is also heard in the conversation with the structures in the board for figuring out how we are going to move towards moving towards full-time in-person school. But we understand that will be up to administrators to come up with and have a variety of strategies.
Yep.
And there isn't a specific because there's something unknown. Make sense? Okay. I'm going to take a roll call vote, and Amy, I'm starting with you. Bob? I'm saying yes, right? And I'll be carried. Thank you, everybody. All right. At this point, I want to keep a motion to approve minutes of the January 4th, special board of education meeting, January 11th, board of education meeting, The motion would also include bills that have been submitted for cleanup as well as the payment of prevention of page 21. Is there a motion? Joella, is there a second? Questions, comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes. Mike, I'm sure yes. John, Amy. Fred, motion is carried. All right, now, this is just information only. Amy, do you want to discuss what happened in the town, or just talk about that?
Yeah, I'll just that much information
Yeah, so that meeting, we talked about two things. One were, because it's official things that we have to act on this time every year. One is just a public notice that, educational options that we have in the district. And, we have to post that, and the deadline for that, if we pass that. The other was, to establish the number of open enrollment fees, for each grade, based on people who come outside the district, who may want to over 6 years. Right now, we are establishing the limits on that, except in special ed, there are no specific. So, we're going to act on them. So, we move approval of both of those. We have 50 discussion on both of those.
Remember, this is an annual legal responsibility that we have. I'm taking a roll call.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. The motion is carried. At this point, we will identify items to board meeting. We already have the four changes in the system that will be on that changes now. We on the board. We will question to be identified and send out the changes to up and we can send it. Are there other things we should be making that? All right, and the first one is, there will be a candlelight celebration walk with the city of the Winter Fest on Friday, January 28th, or January 29th, excuse me. People need to be only event. Education programs usually Monday, February 1st, at the Zenith Finance Academy. Remember when you do it. Finance and facilities will meet Monday, February 8th at 6. The personnel committee will meet Monday, February 8th at 6 or immediately following finance and facilities. The next regular board meeting will be Monday, February 15th at 6 o'clock. With the exception of the candlelight walk and the meeting at 10. The other meetings will be here in the high school. At this point, I would like to have a motion to move into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin statute 1985-1-2. Letters to administrators relative to the contract. Then a motion. Thank you. Todd, I need a roll call, please. Yes. Todd, Mike. Yes. And thank you very much. And we'll talk to you later. Enjoy the weather down there. Have a good day.